The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. 47 different species lived together under its laws. They believed in talking, in patience, in solving problems with words instead of weapons. War was something primitive species did. Civilized beings negotiated. This belief had kept peace for millennia. Until the Vorath swarm came, they emerged from the dark spaces between galaxies, from regions no ship had ever explored. The first colony to see them was a small mining world belonging to the Alord people. The miners sent a single transmission before they went silent. "They are eating everything." The council responded the way they always did. They sent ambassadors. The Vorath consumed the ambassadors within hours of their arrival. Not captured. Not killed, consumed. The bioships of the swarm were living creatures, and they fed on organic matter. Any organic matter, including the diplomats sent to greet them. Still, the council believed in their methods. The Minthok, a species known for their advanced technology, offered to share their greatest inventions with the swarm. The Vorath took the technology and ate the Minthok delegation anyway. The Pale Ones, ancient beings of translucent flesh, offered tribute. They promised to deliver millions of their own people as food if the swarm would spare their worlds. The Vorath accepted the tribute and then consumed the Pale Ones' outer colonies. Regardless, 17 civilizations fell in the first year, not conquered, not occupied, erased. The Vorath did not want territory or resources or slaves. They wanted only to feed and multiply. Their bioships grew larger with each world they devoured. Their numbers doubled, then doubled again. The council sent more ambassadors. They offered more treaties. They made more promises. The Vorath kept eating. Admiral Una received the distress beacon while her fleet patrolled the Kepler frontier, far from council space. She was a small woman, with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. Earth's military had sent her to this remote posting because the Council considered her too aggressive for civilized space. Humanity had joined the galactic community only 18 years ago. They were considered infants among the stars. The Council had welcomed them with restrictions and limitations. Human fleets could only be so large. Human weapons could only be so powerful. Humans needed to learn how civilized species behaved. Una had spent 18 years following those rules. She had watched her fleet reduced to defensive patrol vessels. She had attended council meetings where other species lectured humanity about their violent history. She had smiled and nodded and kept her opinions to herself. Now she stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, reading the desperate message that the council had sent to every species in known space. "They are asking for help," said Commander Doan, her second-in-command. He was a tall man with a serious face and quick hands that moved across tactical displays with practiced ease. The transmission went to all 47 member species. "And how many have responded?" Una asked. Dohan checked his screens. 46 species have either declined to send aid or offered surrender terms to the Vorath. The Ilori are negotiating to give up half their territory. The Minthok are discussing terms of servitude. The Pale Ones have already begun evacuating their core worlds. Una studied the star charts projected in front of her. The Vorath swarm moved like a living tide across the galaxy, consuming everything in its path. At their current speed, they would reach the heart of Council space within 3 months. Earth sat on the opposite spiral arm, far from the destruction. Safe for now. "What did the Council say when we first joined?" she asked quietly. Doan's jaw tightened. "They said we were too aggressive, too unpredictable. They said our history of warfare made us dangerous to civilized society, and they restricted our fleets," said Admiral. "They limited our ship sizes, our weapons, our military personnel. They said we needed to learn peaceful ways." Una watched the red markers on the map that represented Vorath bioships. Thousands of them moving together like a swarm of insects. Behind them, the markers for destroyed worlds glowed orange. "Get me a secure channel to Earth High Command," she ordered. "Maximum encryption." Executing. The communication took 3 hours to establish across the vast distances of space. When the face of Admiral Park appeared on screen, Una saw the same knowledge in his eyes that she felt in her heart. They had both known this day would come. "You have seen the Council's request," Park said. It was not a question. "I have. Earth Command has been discussing our response. The Council never respected us. They treated us like children. They limited our strength and mocked our nature." Park paused. "Many voices say we should let them face the consequences of their arrogance." Una thought about this. Part of her agreed. The Council had spent 18 years telling humanity that their warrior spirit was a flaw, defect, something to be ashamed of. Now that same Council begged for help against an enemy they could not negotiate with. But Una also thought about the billions of innocent beings who would die if the Vorith continued unchecked. She thought about children on worlds she had never visited, families who had never harmed anyone, entire cultures that would vanish into the bellies of alien monsters. "What is our answer?" she asked. Admiral Park smiled, and there was something fierce in that smile. Something that the Council had tried to breed out of humanity for 18 years. "We are sending everything," he said. "Every ship we have hidden. Every weapon we were forbidden to build. Every soldier we trained in secret." He leaned forward. "The Council wanted us to be peaceful. They wanted us to forget what we are. But we never forgot, Una. We just waited." 6 hours later, humanity's response reached the Galactic Council. It was not a negotiation. It was not a discussion. It was not even a proper diplomatic communication. It was 3 words. "We are coming," across Council space. Species that had dismissed humans as primitive and violent read those words with confusion. What could the humans possibly do? Their fleets were small. Their technology was limited. They were infants in a galaxy of ancient civilizations they did not understand. They could not understand. Humanity had never stopped being what they were. They had simply learned to hide it. Admiral Una turned to her crew. "Set course for the Minthok system. Maximum speed. And send word to all human vessels in range." She paused, feeling the weight of what was about to begin. "Tell them the hunt has started." The Galactic Council had rules about military vessels. Ships could only be so large. Weapons could only be so powerful. Fleets could only contain so many craft. These rules had kept peace among the stars for thousands of years. Humanity had followed these rules. Officially, when Admiral Una's fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Minthok system, the Council observers could not believe what their sensors showed them. The readings had to be wrong. There had to be some mistake. The Indomitable came first. It was a Dreadnought-class carrier, longer than some space stations, bristling with weapons that the Council had specifically banned. Behind it came more ships, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything humanity was supposed to possess. Ambassador Toril of the Allori stood in the Council observation chamber, his forearms trembling as he watched the tactical display. "This is impossible," he whispered. "We inspected their shipyards. We counted their vessels. They only had patrol craft." "They lied," said First Voice, Mahil of the Pale Ones. His translucent body flickered with colors that indicated deep distress. "For 18 years they lied to us all. 48 capital ships formed into battle lines. Each one carried a name from human history. Names that meant nothing to the Council species, but everything to the crews who served. Board them, Stalingrad, Thermopylae, Verdun, Normandy, Gettysburg. These were names of battles. Places where humans had killed each other in vast numbers. The Council had always seen this history as proof of human barbarism. They did not understand that it was also proof of something else. Humans knew how to fight. They had been practicing for their entire existence. Captain Sujin stood on the bridge of the Midway, watching the long-range sensors paint a picture of the approaching Vorath swarm. She was a compact woman with steady hands and a calm voice that never rose, even in crisis. Her crew trusted her completely because she had never given them a reason not to. "Count the bioships," she ordered. Lieutenant Hagen worked his tactical station. "Over 3,000 confirmed, Captain. Each one contains approximately 2 million Vorath drones. They also have several hundred larger vessels that we believe are breeding ships." Sujin did the math in her head. Billions of enemy creatures. Thousands of living ships. An army that had consumed 17 civilizations without ever facing real resistance. They have never been hurt, she said quietly. Every species they met either ran away or surrendered. They do not know what it means to fight someone who fights back. Should we be worried, Captain? Asked Ensign Minji from the communication station. She was young, barely out of the academy, and this was her first real combat deployment. Sujin turned to look at the young woman. Are you scared? Minji hesitated, then nodded. Yes, Captain. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. But remember what you are. Remember what we are. Sujin pointed at the view screen where the distant shapes of Voroth bioships were becoming visible. Those crater. E's have never met anything like us. They are about to learn why our own species spent thousands of years trying to kill each other. We are very, very good at it. Across the fleet, Admiral Yuna opened a communication channel to all ships. Her voice reached every bridge, every crew quarters, every fighter cockpit. This is Admiral Yuna. In a few hours, we will engage the Voroth swarm. The Council species believe we cannot win. They believe we are too few, too young, too primitive. They have spent 18 years telling us that our nature is a flaw. She paused, letting her words settle. Today, we show them the truth. We are not flawed. We are not primitive. We are the children of a world that tried to kill us every day of our existence. We survived ice ages and plagues and predators. We survived each other. We became the deadliest species our planet ever produced. And then we reached for the stars. On the Indomitable's bridge, Commander Doan watched his admiral speak. He had served with her for 15 years. He had never heard her voice carry such cold certainty. The Voroth believe they are hunters, Yuna continued. They believe they are the top of the food chain. They have never been wrong before. But they have never met humans before. Today we teach them what fear feels like. Today we remind the galaxy why they should never have tried to make us gentle. The Voroth swarm detected the human fleet and responded as they always did. They sent a communication demanding submission. The message was simple. Surrender and be consumed quickly. Or resist and be consumed slowly. Admiral Yuna's response was broadcast on every frequency, translated into every known language in the galaxy. Council species across 1,000 worlds heard her words. We do not submit. We do not negotiate. We do not retreat. We are humanity. We have come to remind you that some prey has teeth. In the Council observation chamber, Ambassador Toril felt something he had not experienced in 200 years of life. It took him a moment to recognize the emotion. It was hope. The Voroth had consumed 17 civilizations because no one had ever truly fought them. The Council species had evolved past violence. They had forgotten how to wage war. They viewed aggression as a disease to be cured, but humanity was different. Humanity had never stopped being predators. They had simply learned to wear the mask of civilization when it suited them. Now, the mask was coming off. All ships, Admiral Yuna commanded, advanced to combat range. Weapons free upon engagement. Show them what we are. The human fleet moved forward as one, straight toward the heart of the swarm. They did not hesitate. They did not slow down. They flew toward billions of enemies with the confidence of a species that had spent its entire history fighting impossible odds. The Voroth had never seen anything like it. For the first time in 10,000 years of expansion, they faced prey that did not run. They faced prey that was hunting them back. The Voroth had never known defeat. For 10,000 years, they had moved from world to world, consuming everything in their path. Species fled before them. Civilizations surrendered to them. No one had ever charged directly into their formations until now. The human fleet hit the swarm, like a hammer hitting glass. Admiral Yuna had studied every piece of information available about the Voroth. She knew their bioships were tough, but slow. She knew their drones were numerous, but stupid. She knew that they had never developed real tactics because they had never needed them. Humans had been developing tactics since they first picked up rocks to throw at each other. They had spent millennia perfecting the art of killing, Commander. Gon coordinated the attack from the Indomitable's tactical center. Dozens of screens showed him the battle from every angle. Human fighters, small and fast, darted between the massive bioships. Destroyers moved in precise formations, their weapons tearing holes in the living flesh of enemy vessels. Squadron 7, focus fire on that breeding ship, Doan ordered. Squadron 12, cover their approach. All bomber wings, prepare for deep strikes. The Vorath responded with overwhelming numbers. Millions of drones poured from their bioships, filling space with claws and teeth and hunger. They swarmed toward the human vessels, expecting to overwhelm them as they had overwhelmed so many others. Human point defense systems lit up the darkness. Thousands of drones died in seconds, cut apart by weapons designed specifically for this kind of close-range combat. The Council had banned such weapons as unnecessarily brutal. Humanity had built them anyway. On the bridge of the Midway, Captain Sujin watched her ship's guns tear through wave after wave of drones. "They just keep coming," reported Lieutenant Heijon. "Our ammunition will not last forever, and we need to cut off the source," Sujin replied. She opened a channel to Admiral Yuna. "Admiral, request permission to begin boarding operations." Across the Council Observation Network, Ambassador Toril heard these words and felt his blood run cold. Boarding operations. They are going inside the bioships. First voice, Mael's translucent form flickered with disbelief. That is suicide. The Vorath bioships are filled with drones. The internal environment is designed to digest organic matter. No species has ever successfully boarded a Vorath vessel. No species has ever tried, Toril replied quietly. Admiral Yuna's response came quickly. Permission granted. All Marine units, prepare for insertion. We are going to gut them from the inside. The Vorath had never faced enemies inside their own bodies. Their bioships were living creatures, and the swarm shared a collective awareness through them. When human boarding craft punched through the outer skin of the largest bioship, the Vorath Hive Queen felt it like a splinter driven into her own flesh. Captain Sujin led the first wave personally. 40 Marines in sealed combat armor followed her through corridors that pulsed like veins. The walls were wet and warm. The air smelled of decay and alien biology. Strange fluids dripped from the ceiling. Contacts ahead, reported Sergeant Yunji, a muscular woman who carried a weapon almost as large as herself. Lots of contacts. Drones came at them from every direction. The Vorath had never needed to defend the inside of their ships, so the drones simply attacked without strategy or coordination. They relied on numbers, on teeth and claws, on the natural advantages that had always worked before. The Marines cut them down with precise, controlled fire. Human weapons had been designed to burn through organic matter. Each shot punched through multiple drones. When the creatures got close enough for hand-to-hand combat, the Marines switched to blades and fists. Captain Sujin broke a drone's neck with her armored hands and kept moving forward. "The Council called us barbaric," she said over the communications channel, knowing that observer ships were recording everything. "They said we were too violent for civilized space." Maybe they were right. She drove her combat knife into another drone and twisted. "But right now, I do not care about being civilized. I care about killing these things before they kill more innocent people." Across the swarm, the Hive Queen felt something she had never experienced. Her children were dying inside her own vessels. Enemies were moving through her body, destroying vital organs, reaching for her hearts. Pain. This was pain. This was loss. This was fear. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Vorath understood what their prey had always felt. Commander Doan watched the battle reports scroll across his screens. Human losses were mounting. 6 ships destroyed. 4,000 soldiers dead. But the Vorath losses were catastrophic. 200 bioships had been killed. 8 million drones had been eliminated. 3 breeding vessels had been gutted from the inside. "They are retreating," Ensign Mingi reported from communications. Her voice carried disbelief. "The swarm is pulling back." Admiral Yuna stood at the center of her bridge watching the tactical display. The Vorath bioships were indeed moving away from the engagement zone. They were fleeing. No species had ever made the Vorath retreat. No force had ever hurt them badly enough to make them run. "Do not let them escape," Una commanded. "All ships pursue. We finish this today." In the Council Observation Chamber, the representatives of 47 species watched in stunned silence. The Vorath swarm, the terror that had consumed 17 civilizations, was running away from a fleet of humans. Ambassador Torel found himself speaking without meaning to. They actually did it. They hurt the swarm. First voice, Male's colors shifted to patterns no one had seen before. They did more than hurt them. They made them afraid. His voice was barely a whisper. What kind of species can make the Vorath afraid? On the indomitable Admiral Una answered that question without hearing it. "All ships, maximum pursuit speed. The hunt continues until every last one of them is dead." She turned to Commander Doan. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them we have made contact with the enemy. Tell them we have taught the Vorath the meaning of human warfare." Doan nodded. "And what should I tell them about our losses, Admiral?" Una looked at the casualty reports. 4,000 dead. Good soldiers. Good people. They had given their lives to protect a galaxy that had never respected them. "Tell them the price was high," she said quietly. "Tell them it was worth it. And tell them to send more ships. This war is just beginning," the Vorath ran. For the first time in their existence as a species, they fled from an enemy. Their bioships moved as fast as their living engines could push them. Trying to put distance between themselves and the terrible creatures that hurt them, Admiral Una did not let them go. The human fleet pursued the swarm across 4 star systems over 3 months. Every bioship that fell behind was destroyed. Every Vorath colony that the fleet passed was marked for later attention. Una had studied human military history extensively. She knew that wounded enemies who escaped would return stronger. She knew that mercy toward monsters only created more victims. The Council did not understand this. They had never needed to understand it. First voice Mihail of the Pale. Ones requested an audience with Admiral Una via long-range communication. His translucent form flickered with colors of concern and confusion as he spoke. "Admiral, the Council wishes to discuss terms for ending this conflict. The Vorath are retreating. Perhaps now they will be willing to negotiate boundaries, to establish territories where both sides can exist in peace." Una listened to this without expression. Behind her, Commander Doan kept his face carefully neutral, though his hands tightened on his console. "First voice," Una replied, "let me ask you something. When the Vorath consumed your outer colonies, did they negotiate? When they ate your ambassadors, did they discuss boundaries? When they took the tribute of millions of your people and then attacked anyway, did they show any interest in peace?" Male's colors shifted uncomfortably. "No, but surely now that they have experienced defeat. They have not experienced defeat. They have experienced a setback. If we stop now, they will rebuild. They will breed more drones, grow more bioships, and return. And when they return, they will remember that your species surrendered while mine fought." Una leaned forward. "They will enslave you first. First voice. They will consume your worlds while we are too far away to help. Is that what you want?" The communication ended shortly after. The Council had no answer for Una's logic because she was right. The Vorath did not understand peace. They only understood strength. Captain Sujin led the advance force that tracked the swarm to their homeworld. She had lost 12 Marines in the boarding actions, good soldiers who had died fighting inside alien bodies. She carried their names in her memory like weights. Lieutenant Hagen commanded the reconnaissance mission that first laid. Eyes on Vorath Prime, he transmitted the images back to the fleet with steady hands, though his voice carried a hint of awe. "The planet is entirely covered," he reported. "There are no continents, no oceans. Just Vorath biomass from pole to pole. Conservative estimates suggest a population of 50 billion drones, plus breeding facilities, plus the central hive structure where we believe the Hive Queen resides." Admiral Una studied the images in her command center. 50 billion enemies. An entire world converted into a single massive organism. The birthplace and heart of the swarm? Can we destroy it? She asked. Commander Doan ran the calculations. With our current fleet, we can establish orbital superiority and conduct ground operations. But 50 billion drones? Admiral, we have 30,000 Marines. The numbers are not in our favor. Numbers were never in our favor, Una replied. When have they ever been? Our ancestors faced mammoths with stone spears. They crossed oceans in wooden boats. They flew to the moon in metal cans held together with faith and mathematics. She turned to face her senior officers. We are human. We do not win because we have superior numbers. We win because we refuse to lose. Sergeant Yunji was among the first ground forces to set foot on Vorath Prime. She had fought in the boarding actions, had killed more drones than she could count, had lost friends in corridors that felt like intestines. Nothing had prepared her for standing on the surface of an entire world that wanted to eat her. The ground beneath her boots was not soil. It was flesh. The air was thick with spores and the smell of alien biology. In every direction, organic structures rose like buildings, and in every shadow, drones waited. Defensive positions, she ordered her squad. Watch your sectors. Remember your training. The Vorath came at them in waves. They had never needed to defend their homeworld because no one had ever attacked it. Their strategy was simple. Overwhelm the invaders with bodies. Throw enough drones at the enemy until the enemy stopped moving. Against any other species, this would have worked. But humans had faced overwhelming odds before. They had developed weapons and tactics specifically designed to kill large numbers of enemies quickly. Orbital bombardment cleared landing zones. Precision strikes eliminated the largest drone concentrations. Marines in powered armor held defensive lines against waves of creatures that should have overwhelmed them. Human soldiers died, but they died slowly, expensively. Taking dozens of enemies with each fallen warrior, Lieutenant Heijon coordinated the assault on the central hive from a command post, established in the ruins of a destroyed breeding structure. His tactical displays showed him the flow of the battle, the positions of human forces, the movements of Vorath defenders. The Queen is in the central structure, he reported to Captain Sujin. If we can reach her, if we can kill her, the swarm will lose its coordination. The drones will become mindless. Sujin looked at the distance between their current position and the central hive. Miles of enemy territory, billions of defenders, and a structure that had never been breached in 10,000 years of Vorath existence. Then we keep pushing, she said. One step at a time. One drone at a time. Until we reach her. The battle for Vorath Prime lasted 47 days. Human casualties mounted with each passing hour. Ships in orbit took damage from the planet's defense organisms. Marines on the ground fought until their weapons ran dry, then fought with blades and fists and teeth. The Council watched from their safe worlds, unable to look away. They had never seen warfare like this. They had never imagined that any species could sustain such losses and keep fighting. Ambassador Toril of the Ilori spoke for many when he asked a simple question. Why do they not retreat? Why do they not accept that they have done enough? Commander Doan heard this question and answered it during a briefing transmission. His face was tired, his uniform stained, his voice hoarse from days of continuous operations. We do not retreat because retreating means failing. Failing means the Vorath survive. The Vorath surviving means more innocent species die. He looked directly into the camera. You asked us to save you. You did not specify a cost limit, so we will pay whatever price is necessary. That is what humans do. On the 47th day, Captain Sujin's Marine force reached the central hive. She had started with 400 soldiers. 73 remained. The Hive Queen waited for them in a chamber of pulsing walls and flowing fluids. She was massive, a creature of nightmares, connected to her world by tendrils that spread in every direction. Through those connections, she felt every drone that died, every bioship that fell, every piece of her empire that crumbled. She felt fear, true fear, the fear of extinction. Captain Sujin raised her weapon. For everyone you consumed, she said. For every species you erased. For every child who died screaming in your ships. She pulled the trigger. The Hive Queen died screaming through every connection she had to her children. 50 billion drones felt her death and went mad with confusion. Without her guiding intelligence, they turned on each other, on themselves, on anything that moved. Within hours, the coordinated threat of the Vorath swarm became a chaotic mass of mindless creatures, killing each other. Human forces pulled back and let the Vorath destroy. Themselves, Captain Sujin sat in the evacuation shuttle, watching through the viewport as Vorath Prime tore itself apart. Beside her, the surviving Marines tended their wounds and mourned their dead. Sergeant Yunji had lost her left arm in the final assault. She held the stump with her remaining hand and stared at nothing. Was it worth it? Ensign Menji asked quietly. She had been transferred to ground operations after her ship was damaged. She had seen things in the past 47 days that would haunt her. Forever, Sujin thought about the question for a long time before answering. Ask the species we saved. Ask the children who will grow up because the Vorath will never reach their worlds. She paused. Ask the dead. They knew what they were fighting for. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session 6 months after the battle began. Every species sent representatives. Every observation record was reviewed. Every piece of data was analyzed and discussed. The Vorath swarm no longer existed, not reduced, not defeated, not contained, extinct. Humanity had done what no other species in galactic history had ever accomplished. They had eliminated an existential threat through pure, relentless violence. They had refused to negotiate, refused to compromise, refused to stop until the job was finished. The Council did not know how to feel about this. Admiral. Yuna attended the session via holographic projection. She stood in the center of the council chamber, a small human woman surrounded by representatives of 47 species. Her uniform was clean now, her hair properly arranged, her face calm and professional. But everyone who looked at her saw something different than they had seen 18 years ago. They saw a predator. Ambassador Toril of the LRE spoke first. His 4 hands moved nervously as he chose his words. Admiral, the Council wishes to express its ... gratitude ... for humanity's assistance in this crisis. Your forces performed beyond any reasonable expectation. Thank you, Ambassador, Yuna replied politely. However, Toril continued, we must also address certain concerns. The methods employed by your forces were ... extreme. The complete elimination of a sentient species raises serious ethical questions under Council law. Your first voice. Mihail of the Pale Ones added his voice. The founding treaties of the Council specifically prohibit genocide. The extermination of the Vorath, while perhaps strategically necessary, represents a violation of our most fundamental principles. Admiral Yuna listened to these words with patience. When the Council representatives finished speaking, she let the silence stretch for several heartbeats before responding. Let me make sure I understand correctly, she said. The Vorath consumed 17 civilizations. They ate your ambassadors. They rejected every offer of peace. They made clear through their actions that they intended to consume every organic species in the galaxy. She paused. And you are concerned about their rights? The principle is important, Toril insisted. If we abandon our ethics whenever faced with difficulty, we become no better than the threats we face. Ambassador, with respect. Your ethics nearly got your species eaten. Yuna's voice remained calm, but something hard entered her eyes. Your principles sent delegation after delegation to their deaths, while the Vorath laughed and grew stronger. Your civilization is 12,000 years old. And in all that time, you never learned a simple truth that human children understand. Some enemies cannot be reasoned with. Some threats must be destroyed completely, or they will destroy you. The council chamber fell silent. Commander. Doan transmitted the final casualty reports from the Indomitable. 11,000 human dead. 17 ships destroyed. Countless soldiers wounded in body and mind. The cost of saving the galaxy from the Vorath swarm, we paid for your survival, Admiral Yuna continued. Human blood. Human lives. We did not ask for payment. We did not demand concessions. We came because you asked for help, and we are the kind of species that answers such calls. She looked around the chamber. meeting the eyes of representatives from species that had mocked humanity for 18 years. But do not lecture us about ethics. Do not tell us that our methods were wrong while you sit safe in chambers that would be Vorith breeding grounds without our sacrifice. We did what was necessary. We did what you could not do. And if you find that uncomfortable, then perhaps you should ask yourself why you needed us in the first place. The council had no response. 3 months later, the restrictive treaties on human military capacity were quietly removed. The limitations on fleet size and weapons development were eliminated. Earth was offered a permanent seat on the council's newly formed security committee. More importantly, the attitude of the galactic community toward humanity shifted fundamentally. Species that had once dismissed humans as aggressive primitives began to see them differently. They saw protectors. They saw warriors. They saw the ones who would do what needed to be done when civilization itself was threatened. Admiral Una retired from active service 2 years after the war. She spent her remaining years writing a history of the conflict, ensuring that future generations would understand what had been sacrificed and why. Captain Sujin took command of the Indomitable. She led the fleet that patrolled the borders of council space, watching for new threats, ready to respond if darkness came again. Lieutenant Hagen became the youngest admiral in human history. He developed new tactics based on the lessons learned against the Vorath, preparing humanity for enemies that might come in the future. Sergeant Yunji received a prosthetic arm and returned to active duty. She trained the next generation of Marines, teaching them that courage was not the absence of fear, but the determination to fight despite it. And across the galaxy, in quiet moments, beings of 100 different species told stories about the humans. They spoke of the small aggressive creatures from a violent world who had done what no other species could do. They spoke of warriors who ran toward danger instead of away from it. They spoke of a species that had nearly destroyed itself with war and had instead learned to channel that destructive nature. Against the enemies of all life, the Galactic Council had existed for 12,000 years. They had prided themselves on diplomacy, patience, and the careful art of negotiation. They had believed that violence was primitive, that warfare was a disease of lesser species. The Vorath had taught them that some diseases cannot be cured with words. Humanity had taught them something else. Sometimes, when the darkness comes, you need someone willing to become a little dark themselves. Sometimes you need predators on your side. Sometimes the most valuable ally is not the most civilized one, but the most dangerous. The galaxy remembered this lesson, and they remembered who had taught it in the end. When the ancient enemy had come to consume everything, only humanity had answered with ruthlessness. The Galactic Council had been left in shock, and the universe was safer for it.